makes sense.
Yep. Alright, we're good.
That got me so hype.
Way too my
I got such a Judah on right now. Oh my god. What is up, friendly neighborhood nerds? Wow, that was great. Judah Rad. Well, we got so many people here. We got Robo Strange. We got Respawn. We got G Money. We got Chris Runt. And this is Club Valiant. We're going to talk about Harbinger Volume 1 Omega Rising.
Shit, yeah.
Whew, man, my heart is just racing from that intro.
I'm already tired.
We got another guest who will probably be joining us soon. You might have seen his name advertised in the video description. And he's the Comicstorian. So you'll see that. And what's up, Lady Fantastic? What's up, Cypher?
And Cipher.
Who is this Glynis Wheats character?
You sound like every telemarketer that's ever called me.
Hi, is Glynis Wheats here?
Where's the I? You know how rarely a Y makes an I sound?
Very rare.
He probably said GIF too. Idiots.
So let the chat fill up a little bit. So this is we've been doing Exo Manowar for the last 3 Club Valiants, and kind of there it is. Kind of sad to like not be talking about Exo Manowar because I think we just really loved Exo, but we're doing this reading order in chronological order, and the next book is Harbinger. So that's what it is.
Is that floppy?
This is a skinny trade.
Oh.
Yeah,
Pretty flaccid.
it's a little flaccid. Yeah. Hold on, let me. Oh, look.
Mine's kind of tipped up. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Got upwards bend. I like it.
Robo's not wearing pants.
Hey. I also read it digitally, Chris, so thank you. Appreciate
it. Mine's hard. Like
nice.
Penis.
And thick, yeah.
Yeah. This episode is sponsored by ED medication.
Go to hims.com/IFLC.
Well then. So this is Harbinger Volume 1, written by Joshua Dysart. The art is from Khari Evans, Louis Larossa, and Mathew Clark, with colors from Ian Hannin, Moose Baumann, who we saw in Harbinger, in Exo Manowar, and Jeremy Cox, with letters by Rob Steen. Before we even get into it, just kind of a first impression. How did you all like it? Did you like it? What did you think?
Loved it. I loved it.
That's it? That's it?
Yeah.
That's all you said?
That's it? Good.
It's just a first impression. The way I thought that Exo Manowar reminded me of like Iron Man 1, this reminded me of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like I want to watch this as a TV show.
Interesting.
I think it'd be really dope.
I swear I thought you were gonna say X-Men. I was like, they're gonna say X-Men. Nope. Interesting.
I can see that. There is elements of X-Men in it for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I got like Legion vibes from it.
Ooh.
I got like Professor Xavier as a bad guy vibes.
So Legion.
Yeah, nice. So normal.
Yeah. Chris, what'd you think about it?
I wasn't a fan.
I wasn't a fan. This is gonna be a good episode.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, now I'm glad that
For the
he
record,
didn't take him off.
I didn't say whether I liked it or not. I said I thought it would make a good TV show.
Oh yeah. Did you like it or not?
I thought it had more problems than I didn't like a single character. I didn't like I was compelled to keep reading, but like no one in this book is a good.
That's valid.
Like, is a. I don't want to say good character. They're good characters.
What
But,
about Faith?
Yeah, what about
well,
Faith?
that's cheating.
She's like the most good.
Yeah.
So when we interviewed Josh Dysart, one of the things that he mentioned was that like when he was writing this, you know, Faith pops up in issue 3 or 4. I can't remember. We'll see in a moment. But when he started writing Faith, he was like, I was so depressed by this title. It was really bumming me out.
I imagine.
And when I finally got to introduce Faith, it was like I needed it. And
Spark of life, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I imagine a Gale like walking into air conditioning after like a really hot day.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, she definitely adds something necessary to the tone.
Yeah, I think my problem is that none of the characters were likable, like G said. Like especially the lead character. Like we'll get into my problem with him because I have a very specific problem with him.
I wanted him to get promising young woman this entire like book.
Yeah, but Faith, I love Faith because honestly, and she's not watching, so this isn't me sucking up. She really reminds me of my girlfriend. So I really enjoyed her character.
I can say with absolute certainty that I like your girlfriend.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
Before we get into the first issue, just did anyone notice the Geth cameo, or is it just me?
What do you mean?
Beth?
Okay, we'll talk about it later then.
We'll
talk about it later.
Ooh.
Okay.
Did you mean Beth?
No, the Geth, the
Mass Effect race?
the race from Mass Effect. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you meant like the guy with the sickle.
I saw it.
Right.
So I noticed it in this read through. This is my second time reading through this trade, and when I saw it, I squealed. So I'm really excited that I get to show
what
you.
What did that sound like?
It must be related to fate. Right? Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's actually so if you have the book in front of you, it's in the first panel that you see Faith in, or it's either no.
So she's like, yeah, that's right, because she's a nerd. So some shit in the background.
So not the first. It's not correct. Let me.
I think we're all just skipping
what I said
to Faith right away.
Yeah, she's.
You can
she's really.
So in today's review of Faith.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll just
as presented in Harbinger.
Wait. So let me just break it out really quick. Yeah. Oh wow, I'm already big. I wasn't ready to be big. Oh, okay. Fuck.
Sorry.
All this pressure.
He's been big and
yeah, I see.
Okay. Okay. There is Legion right next to her computer.
Oh shit! I never noticed that. God damn! And I read all that text.
And that's a what you call it behind them. What's the yellow transformer?
Yeah, Bumblebee.
Bumblebee. Yeah.
So Faith and I would be best friends. Just saying. So anyway,
she would be a mod for sure.
For sure, 100% a mod. Why isn't she a mod? Somebody make her a mod.
I mean,
Michael,
honestly,
she's not real. She's not real.
I am a little bit like there are certain fictional characters that I get like really mad aren't real. And I think like Faith is one of them. It's like I want to be your I want to add you on WoW.
Look at what Dakota said.
What is Dakota?
Faith.
We do love George Michael in this household.
Okay, so
goddamn, it's stuck in my head. Did I like it? Yeah, I did like it. Thank you for asking, Judah.
Sorry. Sometimes I have trouble differentiating between conversations that happen in the stream and conversations that happened outside the stream.
I don't have that.
Because I'm an idiot. Yeah. My brain's made out of sausage.
All right. There were characters that I liked. I think Toyo Harada is not a likable character, but is a fucking dope ass character.
Cool.
So I like the character, but I don't like, what I'm saying.
I love the Bleeding Monk. I think that shit's so fucking
Monk
cool.
is dope.
Yeah.
Child
like the
Toyo
Bleeding Monk
Harada. I'm like, it gave me some like Golden Child vibes.
Ooh.
And,
there's a specific part that's like, with Child Toyo.
Like I don't know. I think a lot of it. I have one major problem, obviously. But like honestly, I don't know. What about the stripper, the adult dancer? Y'all didn't like her?
Can we just touch on the fact that so far 0 of these books have passed the Bechdel test?
She's in the next volume, Reba. But,
Oh, okay. All right.
I hadn't even thought about that, G, but you're right. Like
it's true.
It was Livewire that made me realize that because I was like, wow, she seems really cool. And then she's just no tea, no shade, not written very well. She's only in there.
Later.
Oh no, yeah, like she's written by Vita IL later, so I know she gets cool. I get that you had a story to tell, and she's not the person that's the main character, or even necessarily a very important character. But like, I know she's coming in later, and all she was there to do was support the male character's plot line, and it just like, oh, okay,
yeah, definitely, 100%. That
I get it too.
Yeah. It gets better. Like these first few titles really did not do very well with the Bechdel test. I mean, Exo Manowar had almost 0 women. There's 2 women in,
and they're the same woman,
and they're basically the same. Yeah. Okay.
That's fair.
So,
yeah, good point.
So shall we get into issue 1?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. So I'm gonna buzz through this really fast. I'll try to like not read the whole thing.
I want you to read every single word.
18-year-old Toyo Harada. Okay. So check it out. Toyo Harada is 18 and he goes to see the bleeding monk in Tibet. He encounters.
Is he 18 or is he 11? I thought he was much younger.
Yeah, he's a little kid, I thought.
So he's 18. He's a little kid in later flashbacks. In this flashback, he's 18. So he goes to see the bleeding monk. He runs into these Chinese soldiers who have just invaded Tibet, and he tells them to protect him. So they start killing each other and themselves. The monks reveal. So he sees the bleeding monk. The monk is like, "I know your future," but before he elaborates on that, we're in Pittsburgh meeting Peter Stanchek. So he's also psychically inclined, you could say, and he's using his powers to score prescription narcotics at like a drugstore, to silence all the voices in his head from all the people whose minds that he's passively reading. He's got this best friend who's like got like borderline personality disorder or something, and they're on the run together. They end up squatting in the house that Peter grew up in, which is in the Pittsburgh suburbs. Now we see fully grown Toyo Harada. Has like a skyscraper, and he's like a big important businessman. He's making plans with like his board, but he excuses them because he senses the existence of Peter Stanchek. So back to Peter. He's in his old neighborhood. He sees Kris. She's like an old friend of his, and she doesn't remember him, or at least says she doesn't remember him, and mostly ignores him. Meanwhile, Joe is getting hassled by the cops. Peter remembers a time when he and Kris kissed as small kids, which is very weird. So now we're in the present, and he's basically stalking Kris. He confronts her, and she reveals that she does remember him, but she's glad he left because of something really bad that he did back when he was young, which we find out more about later. She vaguely implies that the neighborhood was afraid of him and that he hurt people. Peter, desperate, tells her that he loves her. She rejects him, and then he uses his power to make her love him. So they kiss. And then now we're with Joe. He's being interrogated by this weird Mr. Tull guy who's been after them at the Pittsburgh police station. It's revealed that Tull has been hunting Peter and Joe for a while, and that Peter has mind wiped Tull like multiple times. Peter and Kris now. So this is a very like weird part. So now we see Peter and Kris. They're half dressed in bed. It's unclear whether or not they had sex, but they might have had sex. They might have had sex.
Yeah.
So whenever I watch a movie sitcom and the husband and wife go into the bed and the door closes behind them and the camera zooms out and goes to black, I go,
they're banging. Yeah.
I wonder if they had sex.
Yeah. So it's heavily implied they had sex. So this kind of rapey part is interrupted by a talking dog. After a weird nightmare projection, we find out that the dog is Toyo Harada speaking through the dog, or actually is the dog. He explains that Peter is a very powerful Psiot, which is like the mutants of this universe, people born with powers, and that Peter is almost as powerful as Toyo. People are either norms, which powerless, latents who can have power that can be activated, or they're like naturally born with the powers, which is very rare. Toyo offers Peter a chance to receive training to hone his skills. Peter snaps out of this weird like vision. He sees Joe, who explains that talks about his encounter with Tull, and then we're basically at the end of the first issue because the fucking helicopter comes and all the like weird spooky Tull guys attack. And that's that first issue is dense. There's so much shit that happens. What did you all think about that first issue?
I think the main character is a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Kris?
Yeah.
I'll say if I wasn't reading this for like this show, I would have read this issue and never read another issue. because the lead character's dick. He straight up rapes somebody in this issue, and immediately I hate him.
Yep.
Like there's no redemption for him now.
Yeah. And that's essentially what Toyo keeps saying to him, right? He's like, you've crossed the line now. Like you can't go back. Yeah.
Right. I get you needed to make your character like, okay, he needs to do something bad, so we establish that he's not a good guy. But like, did you need to make him date rape someone?
Yeah.
Couldn't you have him like, I don't know, be a shitty pet owner or something?
But he's also from the beginning being painted as the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like that's the reason that it's just the reason that Toyo wants to
make him a creepy incel.
No, I agree. I mean, there's never any reason for incels, let's be honest. But the reaction that she has when she comes out of it in later issues, which we'll get to, like, is exactly the reaction I would have, where I'd be like, "Fuck you, I'm fucking killing you, 100%." Yeah.
So for the record, we talked to Dysart before, and he definitely I can't remember if he said it or implied it that he might have written it differently. Had he written it out? Like he said.
I think he said that in other interviews with us as well. Like he has some regrets around it. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
I will say though, it doesn't redeem the issue, but it was kind of a fun sequence when he's sitting in the pool and his buddy's just like, "Hey, the cops are here, and you're talking to a dog. What's going on here?"
Right?
Yeah.
Is that when he's like, "They let me go and said nothing was up," and then he's like, "You fucking idiot! They followed you here." And the helicopter, like, I love that interaction between the two, where they're just like these hopeless junkies with each other, but trying to keep each other straight. I think that's really endearing. Yeah.
If this had been like, I agree. If this had been a first issue, not for this, I wouldn't have kept reading. If this had been a first episode, I probably would have kept watching, and I cannot tell you what the differences are. But like, I don't know. As a show, this would have, I think, hooked me either way.
Yeah,
it is very cinematic. Yeah, for sure.
Especially that scene. Like,
it establishes. Okay. So I think what Dysart, and I don't think we got so into it with him. I can't remember. It was a while ago, but I think he was establishing a low baseline for the main character. Like, this dude is going to be on some kind of arc for the next however many issues, and let's establish just the lowest, most pathetic, most shitty, most irredeemable possible baseline, and then take it from there, which is an interesting way to start a story.
I mean, mission accomplished, if so.
Yeah.
It's a weird moral gray area, but like he would be more redeemable if he like killed somebody.
Right.
Like,
well, that's
I've accepted that in other comics before, where it's like that guy's a killer, but hey, he's a good guy now. Okay. Yeah. Where this, I'm just like, no, you're done. I don't want you anywhere near me anymore.
I think there's an idea that like rape is better than murder. Because like, well, at least you're still alive, but like talk to some rape survivors.
Right.
Like it's like you murdered their soul.
Right.
Is like, that is what I've been told. And so like, I think there's, especially I think maybe for men, there's kind of a misconception that like, oh, it's just rape instead of killing someone, but like, no, just murder someone.
Yeah. Not to mention, and this is just an aside, but like how many rapists escalate into serial killers? It's gonna be a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There was a perfect opportunity for during the robbing of the pharmacy. Like if he had killed somebody in there, especially to save his own ass, then that would be, I think, a good like super low point. And then
it's still redeemable.
All you would have to do at that point is do a time lapse of like 4 years in prison. He gets out on parole, and then that's Toyo Harada getting him out of prison. Right, he's in prison for killing somebody,
or even driving under the influence of medications and killing someone in the car or in a different car, that.
It had to involve his powers, though. Like that's because
we see him do a lot of questionable shit with his powers, right? Like we see him rob a joint, then they go crash in a place that they don't own, and we know they're on the run. But like that's what I think they're setting up, is like this dude was pulled out of society at what age, like 12. Something like that, because of his fuck up, which we find out more about later. And then like he has years of essentially torture where they're like giving him electroshock therapy and he's trying to contain all these powers that he has within himself. And then he comes back out, and the only relationship that he has fond memories of is with Kris. how would you respond in that same situation? You know what I mean? Like, how would you be? Because he's just fucked.
I wouldn't rape her, but but
I mean, but you might think like, well, if I tell her to love me, then she does, so it's okay.
Yeah,
which
it's
the thinnest of rationalization.
I mean, even Disney said you can't have that rule in Aladdin. Like, come on, that's a pretty low bar,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm not obviously I'm not advocating for rape. I'm not saying you should rape people. Like he starts by saying, "Fall in love with me." That's how it starts. Right. Like that's
let's go have an orgy.
Yeah, his genuine desire is like he wants someone to give a shit about him because no one does.
And that's fair. That's a really good point, actually.
Do you think he's better or worse than Poison Ivy? Because she kisses people and then they fall in love with her and then she doesn't rape them. I don't think
Ivy's motivations are a lot more honorable.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
but I will always support the eco-terrorists. So
right.
Yeah, but this is a good question. So does she sleep with any of these people? Does she use her powers to have people do that? And I would say a hot take here, about to get canceled. If they're bad guys, I'm not really that worried about it. In a literary sense, in a story sense, like I'm like, oh, then the hero went down into hell and there was this
raped the bad guys.
Demon.
I mean, I don't think that Ivy ever used her powers to get a dude to sleep with her, because have you seen Ivy? She doesn't need to use her powers to get a dude to sleep with her.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
This comment from Ace is interesting. So murder can be justified in multiple situations. Rape can't. There's literally 100%. No excuse for it. Murder, though, it could be to save other people, self-protection, etc. Murder impacts other people other than the victim, and they can choose a forgiveness, but no one can give you forgiveness for someone else's rape.
Yep. Right.
I mean, I agree with that 99%. The only thing I would say is if you're murdering somebody for a justified reason, it's not murder. I just replaced murder with killing somebody and all that. Yeah, and that's just, it sounds like a queep, but I would say like murder, like this intentional ending of someone's life that is unjustified. You're killing somebody innocent. I don't know if there's any reason for that, but killing somebody, 100% I agree with all of that. For sure.
Well, to kind of move on what you guys were saying earlier, I was thinking about it, and you could use his powers to kill somebody. You go back to the sequence where he's stealing the drugs. He uses the powers. He doesn't know how to use them, a brain aneurysm or something. And the guy drops dead.
Yep.
So then it's a manslaughter situation where
he kind of did do that. We'll kind of see it in a later issue with his father.
But even that's just a coma. But I'm just saying to set up him being a piece of shit. That's just a coma. To set up him being a piece of shit, like that would be a better motivation for me, because then he could eventually get to a place as a character where I could forgive him, and I could be like, okay, he's redeemed himself in the eyes. Where now, like I said, like from issue 1, like I'm done with you. You're never going to redeem yourself in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We should definitely revisit this every time we do a Harbinger book, and at the end of the book say, so do we like Peter yet, or do we not like Peter?
Yeah.
I mean, if you
Volume 2, Kris forgets about the rape. Yeah, Peter's gonna die.
I was just gonna cite Negan as like everyone can get redeemed, but Negan's one line was rape.
Yeah.
So,
there it is.
Yeah, true.
He would kill the people. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm going to give one last one that we can press. One last thing that, and it's okay to disagree with me, and I got the idea when I thought about prison. If that had happened and he went to prison and that was a part of everything, his family left him, and then he went to prison. Toyo Harada does his powers things to get him out of prison and then goes there. And like what we know is that Peter was like rotting in prison and fucking getting his ass beat every day, and he was going to prison for what happened. I think that would be like a road to redemption. Like Toyo Harada kind of brings him out, and then he goes and becomes a hero that saves the planet. Like, give me something besides, I was super sad for a while, guys, right? Am I good yet? I
think having someone actually go to prison for rape would be too unrealistic, though.
Fair.
Right.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
Also, hi, Danny. How you doing?
Hey, Danny.
Hashtag Bill Cosby.
Right.
So let's get into issue 2. So this starts off more flashbacks. A lot of these start off with flashbacks. This is a very confusing flashback to Mumbai, India, 10 years ago. And by the way, if I miss, because like some of the shit's honestly, the way it's presented kind of confusing to me. So if I'm like skipping something or misinterpreting an event, let me know. So Toyo seeks an old, presumably Sayat woman. She shows him a Sayat baby who can cause people to relive bad memories. Toyo relives the nuclear attack on Japan, where he watched his family die. He overpowers the effects of the memories and lifts the baby Darpan. Now we're in the present. Okay, so Peter, Kris, and Joe are getting raided by these gunmen. There's also a helicopter. Toyo, still a dog, is there. He reveals that the men have, yeah.
Really cute dog too.
He is a cute dog. I would like a Toyo dog. I think Heather made a really funny comment about it a long time ago. I can't remember, but he reveals that
was a cat more.
That's right. Yeah. Something like that. So he reveals that the men have low-grade anti-Sayat tech. Toyo shows him how to overpower the tech. He defeats the troops while their bullets, in a really cool panel, loop around him. He finds Tull, wipes this poor motherfucker's mind again, and then he uses his power to crash the helicopter into the house. Next, Peter meets with Harada on the psychic plane, where Harada explains that Tull works for a shadowy organization called Rising Spirit. Remember that. Peter agrees to link up with Harada if Harada keeps Joe safe. Also relevant detail. So Rachel Hobson arrives almost immediately and picks up the whole crew. Peter brainwashed Kris and Joe in a van. Peter breaks his... Oh, you're going to show it? Yeah. The bullets whizzing around.
Man, the art's so sick.
So Peter takes this opportunity to break his spell on Kris, and she is understandably furious. He parts ways with Kris and Joe, who's also horrified by what he did to Kris, and heads to Harada with Rachel. And that is issue 2. My favorite part was the bullets whizzing. What about you?
Let's not forget when you say like he wipes Tull again, he goes, "You deserve to suffer. I'm going to take everything." And so he wipes everything. So this is again another example of him being a complete douche.
I sort of don't believe that this shadowy organization isn't also controlled by Toyo Harada, because like he seems like the kind of guy that would
have his
run a racket.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe anything he's saying at all. Like, nope, you're power hungry. You're not trying to make the world a better place at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're trying to make it your world.
Yeah, because they set him up, and it's more in the next issue. It's jumping ahead, but
just do what I'm doing. Calm down.
Whenever I make guesses about the future in comics, I never look at Juno's face.
I love it.
I mean, I know too, but he's like.
But what does that reaction tell you? Nothing.
Everything.
Everything.
Maybe it's obvious to me because I know, so maybe you're right.
Yeah. To G's point, they also set him up to be like this philanthropist that's trying to change the world for the best. And this is in issue 3, so I'm jumping ahead. And so it really, as soon as they did that, I'm like, yeah, he's the bad guy. Because
there's something I heard in a movie a really long time ago, and it's always stuck with me, that you can tell what people are trying to hide by how they try to hide it.
Yeah.
And absolutely, this character is one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Danny, shut up. Stop. Obviously me. I'm like
it's more like
that's right.
I
don't know. So Peter lashing out is one of my favorite things he does, and we'll see this later on in the trade. But I like it when he like loses his shit and uses powers.
You know what's interesting too, Judah, is like the discussion. Maybe this is in issue 3 as well. I think it might be, but fuck it. When Toyo's like, "How do you feel after that?" and he's like, "Totally at peace, but I don't like giving myself over to rage like that." And I just thought that was a really interesting bit of dialogue. Like, are they saying it's good to have release, but not in certain ways? Is that the message there?
Yeah. I think
as a good boy.
Good boy.
He's a good girl.
Good girl.
It's a good it.
It's cute. I think you hit the nail on the head, Ree. It's kind of like that. Like, have you ever been in a fight or an argument with someone where you lost your temper and you said a bunch of shit that you didn't really mean, or you just wanted to hurt them, and it felt really good when it was coming out, but like almost immediately after it came out, you were like, "Oh, that hurts." Like, I hate being like that.
I'm going to therapy for it.
That like perfectly illustrated that was like it had like it zoomed in on, I can't remember a comic, but it zoomed in into their brains, and it was like they had like the one that was like a military commander that was like, push the button, say it, and the rest of them being like, no, we don't need to say it yet, it hasn't gotten that far. And like that's what it feels like, because the more you know, like my whole family was terrible about this. Like we were all so mean to each other, and yeah, like therapy. Oh man, it feels so good coming out, but immediately there's just that cold feeling, because like you've just hurt someone that you care about enough to know how to hurt them.
I'll tell you what, just a little deep into my dark soul, that's probably not smart to do on the internet, but if I'm mad enough, there's literally no limit to what I will say.
I have like
that's something I've
blackouts
had to like work on my entire life, is like I used to have like rage blackouts where like I don't remember what I did, because I would get it takes a family member to get me that mad.
It's a cliche. It's a cliche, but it's always the people that you love the most that hurt you the most.
Exactly.
Because when you love someone, you give them power. Yeah. Wow.
Danny,
where did this come up?
I know, right? We're getting so deep and personal. Can I say I love the lettering in this book, because poorly executed, it would be very confusing to know how to read these conversations, especially the telepathic communication. Yeah, that is a really different
the outline.
Bubbles. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
good
really
lettering
good.
Does not get enough praise. Same with like in Sandman, the lettering.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Not Near Mint had a letterer. Oh, God, for the life of me, I can't remember their name, but it was a while ago. I just vaguely remember it. But they had a letterer on that was answering questions about like the worst sins in lettering and how you could tell when someone didn't do like a professional lettering, and that was super fascinating, because really, it's not easy. It's not
I would
just
love to watch that. Like letterers and costume designers, I think are like some of the most unsung heroes.
Underrated. Yeah, I agree.
Well,
Ace. From Robo. You made me cry. So there you go, Robo. Sorry, you got to pay up.
I wouldn't know. I blacked out, so I guess I just have to believe it.
Right.
Just lost it. So we get it. We get a lot more action and meat in the last like 3 issues, but it kind of starts when Peter arrives at the Harbinger Foundation. Issue 3, he gets there. It's Harada Global Conglomerates, where we meet Livewire, who is there. Kind of like Glynis said earlier. Kind of like G said earlier, she's just kind of there. She escorts Peter. Like, this is a big character someday, but like she just kind of escorts Peter to Toyo Harada. Toyo shares his vision with Peter. He wants centralized control and species cohesion and a singular vision. Those are the 3 things he believes will save mankind from itself. This is all for the better.
So eugenics-y.
Very, very, very fascist. Yeah. So after Toyo leaves, he reaches out with his mind to this bleeding monk, this mysterious bleeding monk. The monk shows him that Peter Stanchek will be the great destroyer. Meanwhile, Peter is starting his Harbinger training. There's some fun parts here. Hidden Moon is his sensei and explains that the students regard Peter with suspicion because he's self-activated. Peter then meets with a psychologist. They do like this mind meld. She's a piece of shit, by the way. They do this mind meld thing, and she introduces him to Darpan. Remember the baby from the flashback in number 2? So Darpan uses his power to make Peter relive his worst memories. They're very painful. He was abused at school, and then he seriously hurt his father, like put him in a coma or something. His mother took him to some kind of facility where he was subjected to a bunch of unpleasant experiments. The visions end, and Ingrid, the psychologist, explains that Peter needs to master his powers, not hide from them. Next, Peter heads to the Harbinger cafeteria. He has an altercation with the other students where he, and this is what I wrote, he kicks some ass. Next, we are in Richmond, Virginia, which, by the way, I used to live there. It's a cool place. We meet Faith, finally. She has an action figure of Legion from Mass Effect 2 and 3. She's chatting with someone online, and it's kind of like an online flirtation. but it's actually more of a Harbinger recruitment type thing. Crazy episode. I like Peter. Episode. I like Peter beating up the other Psyots. And I like just seeing Faith. And she's drawn so well. She's like just beautifully drawn. It was just enjoyable to see her. Ace says Richmond sucks. Belle Isle. There's like this river that goes through Richmond called Belle Isle with a bunch of flat rocks, and you can go out there and get intoxicated and have a really fun time. It's a great place.
There's like no other place to do that.
And it also has the best pizza outside of New York. And I'll stand by that.
You were treading grounds outside, there, Judah.
Outside of New York.
then we'd get demonetized.
Yeah. So this is the issue where I started thinking, I already read Phoenix Saga.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
But this is also when we meet Faith, this isn't where she has the Mass Effect dude. That's
you're right. That's the beginning of issue 4.
I did notice in this one that her all her names of her tunes on Definitely Not World of Warcraft are references to the first expansion of World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Speaking of World of Warcraft, can we wrap this up?
Yeah.
I
got a raid, man.
Gotta get them levels in.
Yeah.
So
I liked the therapy session because it reminded me so much of Get Out.
Oh, I haven't thought of that. Yeah, no, I can see that for sure. I also liked his reaction when he found out who she was, because he just immediately is like, "Nope, no way, not doing it. I've been here before. I'm not doing.
This
I'm not
whole
doing therapy."
Issue is red flags.
Yeah.
What kind of therapist inflicts trauma as part of the therapy? That seems like very, very not therapeutic.
If your therapist is going to make you relive your trauma, you should see a different therapist.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Was that a serious answer? Because I'm ready.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem positive or
Seems
beneficial.
Counterproductive, doesn't it? Yeah.
But he wouldn't know that because look at all the other therapy this character has had. But this actually probably seems like a positive change.
Yeah.
It seems like people care about him, or people see. I mean, he definitely thinks very poorly of himself at this point. So it's probably very alluring that there's an organization of people that care about him.
Yeah, it's maybe that. I don't know if it's necessarily that they care, because I don't know if he's getting that sensation from them, but he's definitely getting the truth, which is something that he's had to suppress through that entire time that he was incarcerated, because they were saying like, you don't have powers, you're just insane, and here's some medication, here's some electroshock therapy, and why did you fuck up your dad? And it was like, when you beat someone into a confession.
I was thinking recruit someone into a cult. Like cults do that, right? They find people that feel that like have no self-worth, that think that they don't serve any value, and then they give them a purpose, and they give them people, and they take them in, so maybe like that kind of exploitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was also I got very concerned when the sensei, or whatever they called him, was just like, hey, I'm going to let you have your powers in here so that everybody can talk shit about you.
Yeah,
right?
What the fuck?
And then force you to get into a fight with your new friends. Like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Hidden Moon? Is that the dude's name? Hidden Moon?
Yeah,
Like that?
Hidden Moon, yeah.
So his power is that he can suppress everyone else's power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a shit power.
I'd be so mad.
He's a living buzzkill.
And he even thinks that, we see later on.
Yeah.
Man, he sucks. Fuck that guy.
Everyone's just super mean. There's only like 2 thought bubbles that we get in that section where someone's like, I loved this bit too, because I think it comes from a woman, but she's like, he'd look pretty if he smiled more. And then there's another one. Another one where she's like, he looks really lonely and sad. But then the rest are just like, I'm scared of him. He's a drug addict. What a piece of shit. Like, rude.
This issue gave me the biggest X-Men vibes, because it was like, welcome to the Harbinger Foundation. Hope you survive the experience. Like, it was very much like showing up to Xavier's school. And
I feel like this is X-Men if it was run by Quentin.
Ooh. It's gonna be Harry
but that would be awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
For the record, I would read that.
I love Quentin.
I love Quentin too. He is God's perfect asshole.
Tarantino just makes great movies. I've been trying to tell people that.
Stop. He does. Let's schedule a Quentin choir episode. But
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, this is still still a lot of setup, and there's still a lot of unease about what's happening. We obviously don't trust Toyo Harada, and I mean there's a lot of reasons to distrust him, but I think the biggest reason is I believe that what people really need is centralized control and a singular vision. Like that is legit Mussolini talk.
Yeah. And at the same time, he's withholding information from everybody. Like he's withholding information from his teachers,
Livewire.
He's withholding information from his students, he's withholding information from the monk. Like he's just got his own end game in his head. Yeah.
He's got a very serious God complex.
Yeah.
The monk calls him out,
he even says, like, I am the Omega, you are the whatever, the Ocelot, and you're gonna die.
But the book is called Omega Rising, not Omega's Already Risen. So maybe he's not the Omega.
Right. Oh, the one thing I do want to see is Pete beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Like, I hate him, but I hate you more.
I kind of like stories like that where you like get to see assholes fight each other. I don't know, maybe that's why I liked it. When I can understand the complaints that people have, I can understand why
I think you needed to bring faith in when you did.
Yeah,
I like seeing. I don't have to like all the characters. And I know that's not everybody. That's not even most people. And I completely respect that. And I understand it because I do liking the characters. But if I don't like any of the characters, I just have to be interested in them. And I'm definitely interested in these characters. Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to keep turning the page. I want to know what happens next.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's Josh. That's Joshua Dysart. That's everything I've ever read from him.
It's very compelling. Yeah. And you can tell he puts a lot of, it's similar vibes to Hickman sometimes, where it's like lots of research in the writing, you know, like you can tell there's a lot of influence from real world historical knowledge in what he's written.
As someone with borderline personality disorder, I appreciated how that character was handled, because it wasn't just a tagline for like, oh, it's just a crazy person.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
Definitely. I think Joe is the most likable character in this story outside of Faith.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm thinking ahead to his last part. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That hurt, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Let's we have another guest. We have another person joining us. Let's see who it is. Let's Hey, what's up, Benny?
I am so sorry. I have done that show with those guys for 3 weeks in a row, and they've ended on time every week. So that's why I told you I could jump over no problem. And the first week that I'm like, I got something else to do, they're like, let's go long.
That's our cue. You're going nowhere.
We've had so much to talk about. It's all G.
So let's do like a quick little recap, because I want Benny to kind of weigh in on some of these things. We're about to get into issue 4.
Okay.
We've done the first 3 issues. What do you think about Peter Stanchek?
Peter Stanchek at this point?
At this point,
I was more annoyed with him at the intro of this whole book. Like, he felt like he was going through pretty much every, like, I want to say like X-Men or like manga hero, but he's just nothing but whining up to this point. And it's like, he's got magical powers, cool. And he's just complaining. Now, I love what they ended up doing with him. I will say that now before everyone's like, he hated Harbinger, but
he does
just like reading this whole time, all I could think of was like, oh, just imagine this character written this way as a woman. That would never happen. You could just a female character could never act like he does.
He complained about everything. He was problematic across the board at this point. Like I felt like, and it kind of shows how, you know, Valiant did it later on by getting more of a focus on Harada, but it felt like everyone else was supposed to be the star, but they were just trying real hard to write Peter Stanchek again. Like we need him to be that guy.
Right.
This is going to be the clickbait title of this video.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I just got out of a Loki thing, and all I ever said was I hated everything because I had an opinion.
Wait, you hate Loki too? Wow.
No.
Wow.
Don't keep that going, man.
Do we have enough characters in the title to include Comicstorian hates Loki and Harbinger? Or
I think so, yeah.
you have to pick one.
I'm just gonna start going to channels, making my own clickbait. That's great.
Cool. So we're about to get into issue 4. So Faith Herbert, this is kind of like she was cameoed in the last issue, and this is where we really get to know her, sort of. So here she is with her Mass Effect Geth action figure on her desk, which is a reference I greatly appreciated. She's getting ready to go on what she thinks is a date to meet a boy. She meets him at the mall. There are a bunch of mean bitches there. That's what I wrote. There are a bunch of mean girls there that are like being nasty to her. And then this guy shows up, good-looking guy, but now we're at the Harbinger Foundation where Peter's training. So that we jump to Harbinger Foundation. He's haunted by memories of Joe and Kris, which manifests itself in like the form of like actual people walking around talking to him. Toyo is meeting with Peter's instructors. So Hidden Moon wants to kill Peter. He straight up says, like, I think we should just kill him. The psychologist, is more sympathetic. So Toyo Harada, this is going back to what Reese said, he lies, and he says that the bleeding monk destined him for greatness. Livewire gets Peter, brings him to Harada. Harada explains his backstory as a Hiroshima survivor and how he started to discover his abilities. He shows Peter the Harbinger version of Cerebro. Rachel's there, and she explains what activation is. It's a dangerous process, and a quarter of the time, the potential psiots, they die. Toyo explains that there might be a safer way. Peter could be able to activate psiots himself. Toyo wants Peter to test it on Faith, and he does. He tries to activate her. She seems to react badly, to say the least, and you can see the panel. There's like blood coming out of her nose. It's unclear if it worked or not. But anyway, Peter's back in his room. He's hallucinating about Joe. He becomes suspicious that Joe's being hidden from him, so he decides to escape. Livewire surprisingly agrees to use her psiot machine control powers to help him. And she kind of says that she just wants him gone. Harada notices that he's gone. Peter searches this like squat drug den type house for Joe with his imaginary Joe, which is weird. He's looking for Joe with imaginary Joe. Yeah. And then he finds Joe OD'd on drugs, dead. So Ingrid, the psychologist, finds Peter there with Joe's body, and he figures that I wrote that he figures out that Ingrid and the Harbingers killed Joe, but really he tortures her until she tells him, and that's the end of issue number 4.
I think it's a bit of both, right? Because like he's like, hey, everyone's been wiped in this building, and that's how he sort of figures it out. But then he starts interrogating her from that. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit of both.
It's a little bit of both. That's right. And yeah, he kind of deduces it. My favorite part of this is just Faith existing, I guess. She's such a likable character. And
she's super cute. She's super fucking cute. I love it.
I had a small problem with Faith, and not the character of Faith in this one, but just what they did with her. Because, like, I think it's a lazy trope to have the fat girl feel good about herself because a straight-sized man or woman is interested.
Yeah,
definitely.
But I get that this was probably not written by someone who's fat. They wouldn't think about that. So they'd just be excited for a date. So it's like, it's a little tiny complaint, but it's like, it's a lazy trope that pops up pretty often.
For me, with Faith in this situation, I kind of just didn't find her interesting at all at this point. I didn't find Faith too interesting until she got her solo series, because I just felt like she was just kind of attached to the crew at this point. Like
knowing she has a solo series, same with Livewire, does help my interest in
that. It does. But like at this point, everyone outside of Peter didn't feel that important. Like they were there, but they were there to propel the plot. And Peter was what we were trying to follow, Peter and Joe. And at this point, I was just kind of like, okay, Peter's kind of annoying. I really like Joe. I hope he comes back.
Yeah. We'll see.
I hope they find him and he's alive.
Be careful what you wish for.
But like Faith and stuff, I didn't find them too interesting until they got their own solo writers, kind of taking them beyond just being support.
So really, the reason I liked her is because she's the only happy thing happening.
She's also the good person.
Yeah. She's all of us, she's like,
she's blue sky on a cloudy day.
She's also like, make me a superhero, please, please, please. Like, I don't want to be lame and normal.
Like,
I wanna
once again, I'm sitting here like, I hope she sees this. Like, Faith isn't real.
I'm Faith. Faith's me.
Faith is
I knew I liked you for a reason.
Faith was here.
I'll say, Comicstorian, I'll go on the knife for you. I hate Harbinger at this point, and I am so glad that Kris is haunting him, because Kris needs to haunt him for the rest of his existence. That was an amazing moment. And also, like, it really, I almost didn't finish this issue because I've personally been through multiple people I know overdosing from heroin. And so watching that sequence, I was just like, oh, this is just bringing back memories that I don't want to go back to.
It just fell into a lot of expectations. Like, you were like, oh, they're not going to go in this direction, but it just felt like we hit what we would expect from everything. You know, these are the support characters that are helping out. Oh, maybe we're going to save Joe. No, we're not going to save Joe. You know,
which is like the inverse of reading Exo Manowar, which I felt like every time
which
it was
surprised you every time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting point about the overdose, is like, that's the first clue that he has, right? Is like, this dude doesn't inject and he's here with a needle in his arm. Like, that is really out of character for him. That's the first trigger he has to be like, oh, this situation isn't right. And I thought that was interesting and important because not every junkie's the same. Not every drug addict's the same. Not everyone with the same mental illness or disorder is the same. And so, like, having that differentiation between the two was really nice. DC Stranded wants to know, how do you all feel about the level of edge in this first story?
we got pretty deep into that, but it's definitely very edgy.
I'll admit, because like when you first hit me up and said Volume 2, I was a little more excited at first because I enjoyed Volume 2 onward. Because the first volume at this point, when I started up Comicstorian, I was more reading this because it was kind of the job, as opposed to like, I want to read this. In Volume 2 onward, I got more into it. But Volume 1, I was more doing it for the job at this point. So.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel right now.
Judah made me read this.
I read Volume 2, but
see, DC Stranded, I think like I am attracted to edge, and I think it's like a fault that I have, like to the point where I'm like, I love Ennis, I love like all this bullshit that people are like, that's really stupid. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't know. There's something about it that I really enjoy. So that's maybe
because it's hard to do well. Like, and Garth Ennis, I know you were going to bring him up, but like, I love that you did, because I think he's so good from what I have read, and it's by no means his entire body of work, but like for everything I've read by him, like, it does such a good job of like, it shocks me, but I genuinely care about these characters. I think
he needs an editor.
He did Crossed, right?
Yeah, he did do Crossed.
Yeah, just read Crossed. That is like
so edgy.
Magnum opus.
You will know when to stop reading Cross. It's like, Cross is great. Oh, someone didn't stop him. I will.
You know what's good about Cross, though? It establishes like a baseline for edge, right? So like, once you read Cross, it was like, this is a little edgy for me. I'm like, all right, I guess. Everything else is tame after that.
I feel like
what's edgier than the first arc of Crossed? Like nothing, though.
I feel like Crossed
to me better than this one.
I feel like with Crossed, every arc, he was just like, how far could I push the envelope? Why is no one stopping me?
Maybe it was on a dare.
Controlled Ennis is the best Ennis. Like, as long as he has a strong editor, you'll get stuff like Punisher Max. But
I feel like that's the same thing with like Stephen King, because like with a great editor, you get like, the Dark Tower series. With a bad editor, you get
Gerald's Game.
That
part's also one of my favorite.
The end of the Dark Tower series.
The end of the Dark.
I love the end of the Dark Tower series.
Did you get to the point in Cross where Alan Moore starts writing it?
No. I quit after the first volume. I think Robo did as well.
It's fucking weird. And I'm saying this as it gets weird for Crossed.
like weird, worse, like more edge. Like, I probably don't want to read it.
It's weird, like strange.
It's Alan Moore trying to make sense of Cross.
Yes, that's it.
All I will admit with Cross is I've read it far longer than I ever should have. It was definitely a wreck. Yeah. There was definitely a point, and there's a long box in there of Crossed books where I was like, why am I still reading this? What is wrong with me?
Right.
Every issue is I should stop. All right, well, when's the next one coming out?
It's just like I'm kind of in the same boat as Ree, where like Edge just intrigue, like fucked up, edgy shit just intrigues me for reasons I can't
I've got that
comprehend.
macabre taste. Yeah, yep.
Well, so I can say I know personally like kids who got really into like the punk scene that did this shit, that like lived from couch to couch and did, and one of them is dead today because of this reason, and did drugs like this. So I know this character. I've been around this character. So it's a little edgy, but it's also, it has some sense of realism behind them as well.
Right on.
So reading some of his stuff, and then we can move on, but reading some of his stuff, I guarantee that's what he was going for.
100%.
What was the one with in California? I forget what it's called right
It's
now.
it's Goodbye, Good Night Paradise.
Good Night Paradise?
Goodbye Paradise, yeah.
I'll tell you what, we brought up the title. Don't read that. Given what you were talking about, your sensitivity.
100%. Yeah.
Like, I appreciated this because none of the mental illness or addiction seemed like it was used for just effect. It seemed like genuine. I don't even want to say flaws, issues. Yeah. It felt like their characters were real.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I want to get into issue 5, but just one quick other question about issue 4. How dumb is Harada Corp? Like they're supposed to be incredibly smart. Toyo Harada is supposed to be like almost a genius, but he knows Peter's a very powerful Psyot, and they mind wipe everyone at this flop house. And then they don't even research how Joe does drugs. Like they knew he was going to know.
I don't think it's stupid. I think it's arrogant.
Arrogant, yeah.
Yes.
That's a better, that makes more sense. Yeah.
It's the Bond villain that explains the entire plan before it's actually happened.
Yeah.
It's very tropey at this point in the story. Like you're just like, oh, here's the explanation. Oh, here's the angsty guy. Oh, here the friend died. Oh, like
here's the right hand man that's gonna betray the villain for no reason.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So we're talking to Joshua Dysart in 30 minutes, and I'm really hoping he's not watching because as soon as he jumps on the Zoom, I'm like,
dude, but like,
yeah, we'll have some apologizing to do.
Here's the thing, like this is all stuff that reminds me of like complaints and criticisms I have about shows I love.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, there's all these problems, but like despite that, dude, like I was so excited to turn the page every time to see like what's gonna happen next. So like I don't necessarily mind tropes if it's gonna entertain me still.
That's
right. And like this did that.
Yeah,
you're right.
So we got Peter interrogating Ingrid, and when I say interrogating, I really mean torturing. This is issue 5, by the way. She reveals
enhanced interrogation.
Enhanced interrogation. That's right. She reveals that killing Joe was Harada's idea. It was meant to confuse Peter and make him more dedicated to the Harbinger Foundation. Hidden Moon arrives after being temporarily overpowered. Peter, and this is verbatim what I wrote, Peter royally fucks Hidden Moon up. Consumed by rage, and this is the panel that Robo was holding up earlier that I love. Consumed by rage, Peter heads to Harada. A fight ensues between Peter and Harada and the Harbinger Psyots. Peter defeats Edward, which is the Psyot who poisoned Joe. Ion injures Peter, and then Harada gives Peter a choice: serve or die. And he's kind of mask off at this point. In a truly epic moment, and man, I love this. In a truly epic moment, Livewire turns on Harada, frees Peter. He falls off this tower, and he's rescued by Faith. So she does do something cool in this trade. Who is now a full-fledged Psyot with powers. So the activation worked. And she's not dead, which is great. Harada is pissed at Livewire, to say the least. And then the last panel is the bleeding monk walking across a bridge in what looks like it's still Pittsburgh.
So that
this stuck the landing so hard.
Yeah, that was the last page of that was the last page of
You're right.
Episode
issue 4.
Issue 4. That was super dope. And that was sometimes I read comics late after they come out. And one of the things that I really hate is that I'm reading them all at once to where I can, because I'm imagining these coming out once a month or bi-monthly or whatever, and then seeing that last splash that I had put up where you find out his friend's dead and he's just like in Super Saiyan mode. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. I'm like, how dope would it have been to be like there? You got to wait till the next episode, you know?
Right on. Yeah.
Dude, him just freaking out and like taking down all these people who have been just dicks the entire, like you've all been dicks, But now at least some of you are like getting your comeuppance.
That's right.
So, G, let me ask you this. You hate Peter at this point. Rightfully so. He committed a horrible crime against Kris, and he's also just generally a piece of shit asshole. But at this point, in this 5th issue, you mentioned it stuck the landing. Does that mean that in this moment you were totally rooting for Peter?
No. I'm rooting for, honestly, I think I have the next one, so I know the cover. If anyone, I think, can redeem Peter or make him likable, it will be Faith. So like I would love to see them have a moment where she like breaks down, like, you're a terrible person and this is why, but I believe in you.
Is there anything that could happen that would make you like Peter again? Like,
yeah.
Is there?
I guess. Okay, maybe this is a shitty take. I will take shit for it, but like I don't necessarily think that rape is unforgivable. I think you could go a restorative justice moment. Like, I think that is a redeemable thing. I think you need to address it with Kris. I think if she indeed wants to talk to you about it, I think someone like Faith could maybe make him understand, like, here, this is why you did something that's bad. Because like Reese said, like, this is someone who has not had a normal social upbringing. So like, if people have treated you as an experiment your entire life, I mean, honestly, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't just say, like, I want her to want me. Not, I want her to love me. The fact that he can still consider that love and love for him is possible, I think, is like that glimmer of hope.
Of not being a pure psychopath, but just a really shitty...
I think you've taken a kid and you've shit on them their entire life. So like now he's got to climb his way back from that. And if he can, I think he'd be a great character.
That's a really interesting point, because I do like you guys would have seen them. This is kind of a tangent, but those videos on YouTube where the rapist and the victim talk to each other about the event and try and like discuss it with each other. I'm like, wow, that's really fucking heavy, but like important. And I hope that more rapists are brave enough to do that and like try and, even though it like fucking sucks and it's not something you should ever do to another human being, like that doesn't mean that you can't try and make your life better.
Is, I think, seeing the other person, male or female, as an object. So like, yeah, when you can sit down and be like, you're a human person, let's talk about each other. Yeah, like I think that's the biggest step.
With the only caveat that I would say to that is that a lot of people do stuff like that in a performative sort of way, to where I try to apologize. I tried to ask him, and it's almost like this feeling of obligation to, like, you must now forgive me. I think you're right that is heavy, and that is when it happens, but definitely no fucking rapist deserves that, or is
No one's entitled. No one, rapist or otherwise, is entitled to forgiveness.
That's right. Yep.
Benny, did you start to like this trade more around issue 5?
Oh, well, I mean, I like Dragon Ball Z, so the Super Saiyan moment, it kind of like,
hell yeah.
Oh, yeah! Now we're going to have, like, the big, oh, let's go blow everything up moment. Like, I don't care if I'm not a fan of the character. Show me your powers!
Yes.
When he's blowing up characters he don't like anyway.
Yeah.
I like it when Toyo drops the bullshit and just is Toyo, like just is like I am the fucking Omega. You will follow me or die. There is no choice. Like, he's no longer portraying himself as like this reasonable person who just wants to make the world better. Although he does want to make the world better. Like, that is a true thing about Toyo. He survived Hiroshima. He does want to make the world better. It's just his way of making the world better is psycho.
Yeah, not to mention, like, what does the end world look like? And we might not agree that, whoa, this is not better. He's like, yeah, it is. I mean,
I love this idea that, like, you're supposed to be the end, but like, maybe if what he is the end of your terrible empire.
Maybe.
It was the end of 4 and issue 5 that convinced me to read volume 2, 3, 4, and onward. Because the first 4 issues I just found tropey. It's just like, it's kind of boring. I'm disliking a lot of the characters. No one seems important. The everything's what I expected it to be. And then we get to 5 and it's just like a bloodbath, basically.
Do you think it's tropey because, like, maybe the author did not want to spend a lot of time with these characters?
I mean, possibly. Knowing what I do know about how Valiant started up early in the early days, which is where Harbinger Volume 1 started way back in those days. They were just trying to get to the beats as quick as possible. So it might not have been an author decision so much as it was like the higher ups at the time were like, just get to the stuff we can sell. Because I do know when Valiant first started up, the focus was to try and get to the movie as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the comic editorial. It was the people who owned the general property. They wanted to get there, DMG. Mm. And so knowing that they wanted to get there, they don't want to spend time on the overweight character or the side character or what's the one that will make a marquee? Peter Stanchek. Make him interesting.
So taking that into account, the first issue is a very interesting choice. Because he'll never be a marquee. Like, there'll never be a positive portrayal of Peter Stanchek in like a high budget movie with that, unless they retcon it out or they just reboot without that.
What was the date on this though? Because didn't this come out around
2012? Yeah.
I was going to say. So think about what was popular back then. It was the edgy guy that no one really wants to get to know, but he's got a soft side on the other side. Like that was the big movie thing at the time. And if you're trying to rush your way to a movie just to get movie rights going at the time, I do know that there was a lot of arguments internally with the comic book guys wanting the comic books to be good, but there being a parent company that's like, but what can I sell to the movie studios? So if you look back in the day, they I think it was Sony. Sony was buying the rights to all of these. It wasn't just Bloodshot. And so that was what they wanted it to look like.
Interesting.
Dark superhero universe. That's what we need.
It was popular.
Yeah, it was. It made money. My question for the panel, and this is around the themes. Do the ends always justify the means?
No.
Nope.
No. I think some ends justify some. I can't apply a blanket thing to it because you gotta
case by case thing.
It's a case by case. If the means cause a very little amount of harm and the ends reduce a huge amount of harm, then I would say perhaps. But it really has to be like a pretty stark difference in harm caused. If the means cause more harm than the ends reduce, then of course not. So
I think I'm gonna go Spock with like the greatest good for the greatest number of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or
I'll go
greatest
evil
number
on
of
this.
beings. I don't think it needs to be people.
I'll go evil with this one. Just if everyone else dies, then I'm right. Like who
else is there to write the history books?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that comes down to is there an absolute good or bad? And I don't think there is.
So here's my question then. If we're going Spock with it, if Toyo envisions a future which is pretty much what's happening to us right now as humanity, we fuck up the Earth and we can no longer live on it. Is it better to let us go that way with our own free will, or better to control all of us and make us not destroy the planet?
I think you gotta just let it go.
Yeah.
Sometimes a species is their own extinction event. That happens.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, back to Dragon Ball Z. I mean, that's exactly what happened.
Everything comes back to Dragon Ball Z.
So, if this was the only, I think for most everyone here that this is the case, but if this is the only TPB of Harbinger that you've read so far, what do you want to see happen going forward?
I want that moment that Arik had with his friend where he was like, "You're a piece of shit."
Yes. Where he kind of realized oh, there's more to this than just my own personal revenge.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I want him to become close with Faith. I want Faith to make him realize that there is goodness and people might not just, strap you to a table and shock you. Unless you're into that. And then I want him to do something that hurts her. And I want her to do kind of if you watch the new She-Ra, that moment that Scorpio and Catra had of you're a bad friend.
That's right.
I didn't watch the new She-Ra, but I do want to check it out.
You absolutely should. It is the gayest, best thing ever. Although, you know what? There's some discussion to be had there because it maybe lets toxic relationships kind of take a slide.
I see. Cool. Yeah, so that is Club Valiant episode 4, Harbinger Volume 1. Any parting rounds or final thoughts on this volume? I liked it.
I liked it. I'd recommend sticking with it. yeah, that's all I have to say, really.
I
Keep
just
going.
want to know what's coming next.
Well,
So
you will.
it'll be very interesting to see what I think of the next volume because I really, really dislike this volume from start to finish.
Having someone who went through the entire series already, the entire Harbinger and the reboots and all the different ones. After Volume 1, I stuck with Harbinger all the way up until they pretty much stopped making Harbinger themed books.
Till Imperium.
Basically, yeah. And so I enjoyed Harbinger. 2 kind of fixes a lot of 1. 3, in my opinion, made like, oh, now we're in a good direction. We have a team together and we know what we're doing. And it turns into, my friend put it best because he was hugely a fan of Harbinger from 1 all the way on. It wasn't until Volume 3 that it became X-Men, and that's when he really liked it. So
okay, cool.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Question: how do you all feel about the post Dinesh era versus Dinesh era?
It's definitely a little different. A lot of the creators that I love the most from Valiant are during the Dinesh area. That's where you have like Josh and Matt Kint and Venditti and Justin Jordan and Van Lente. Like that was a pretty damn good time. I think that the post Dinesh era has a lot of potential. There's a lot of things that they're setting up that seem potentially cool. I think my biggest complaint about post Dinesh is the lack of interconnectivity between titles and the lack of like universe cohesion, which they seem to at least temporarily sort of abandoned for a while. I still think that individual runs are really good. I still like Dan Abnett's Rye, and which is outstanding. Highly recommend.
Yep.
Yeah, and Tim Seeley's Bloodshot is pretty good too. I like that as well. So, what do you?
Nice.
Yeah,
I personally enjoyed pre-Dinesh, Dinesh era. Not pre. There's no pre. I prefer the Dinesh era because, like I was just saying, you had DMG, the parent company, arguing and trying to get the movies going, but you had people who cared about the comics and cared about the continuity and cared about fixing it. I remember the first talk I had with the Valiant guys back in the day, and they called me up. They're like, "How do we get our books on your channel? How do we get you to promote them?" And I said, "Look, my only rule is I have to enjoy the book. If the book's good, I'll promote it. That's the end of it." And apparently, from what I was told, the follow-up was laughter in their office because if that was the rule, they knew it was going to be sold. So they sent me all the books, and I was hooked on Valiant up until that point. Nice. What people don't realize is there's a Dinesh era, and then there's a interim era that was terrible with the wrong focus and the wrong idea. And the current crew at Valiant does have the right idea, so they're trying to get it back on track. Agreed. But there is a middle era. What, me?
You're part of the current era.
I forget I did that. Yes. But there is an interim era where they were just so focused on the movies that it was ruining the company. And now they're back to comics need to be good. Like everyone likes to argue, oh, movies. But if the comics aren't good, we don't have that story to pull from. There's nothing to pull from. So you can't just throw a superhero on there.
Danny, I blame that Bloodshot movie for the current lack of cohesion.
I liked it. I liked it.
I watched it twice. So I watched it twice, and the first time I was very disappointed because I think I expected something very specific. And the second time I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, this is cool. It was just, it's like once I was shed all the expectations, it was a decent action movie.
I haven't read any Bloodshot yet because, this is my first time through Valiant. Should I read Bloodshot before the movie or see the movie first?
Maybe see the movie first.
No, and then the comics will be super awesome.
Bloodshot is interesting because Bloodshot is one of my favorite superheroes, obviously, because I wrote it too. But he goes through so many different, he starts as just Punisher with a mixed background. You're like, it's just Punisher meets Wolverine. It's all it is. But it's through the history of Bloodshot that it kind of all comes together, and you get to see the different character growth and people he gets to know and how they affect his life and how that it changes his memories. But Bloodshot is one you got to kind of invest the whole way. Because if you just read Volume 1, you're like, it's Wolverine with guns. Cool.
I've been reading the Kevin Van Hook run from the 90s. It's all on Comicsology. So, and I just got a new tablet. So I've been reading it on that. And it's actually everyone, there's this negative thing about 90s comics, and I think it's well earned because there's a lot of shit 90s comics. But this Kevin Van Hook run, yeah, this run, it's very like almost Garth Ennis Punisher Max-ish. It's like it's an action movie. It's an action movie in comic form, and it's super definitely what Comicstorian's saying about it being like the Punisher. It is so much like the Punisher. It's like the Punisher with Wolverine powers, basically. But it's dope.
Yeah, I agree with you, DC, by the way. I'm also like a Vin Diesel stan, which is dumb because he's an idiot, but like I can't help it every time And what, sorry?
He's 50.
Is he
Who,
50?
Vin?
Yeah.
He's also a hippie. If you go to his Instagram, he's like an Instagram, like it's all family, it's all love. Look at we go to the orb in the middle, and it's bringing everyone together. And it's like, what is wrong with Finn?
And
that is not how I envision Vin.
Oh, he totally is like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Ever since Pitch Black, I can't help it. I'm just like
surprised.
Yeah,
Pitch Black's the best thing I've ever seen him in.
That whole Riddick trilogy, I love so much. I just love it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
that gives you an idea of my taste level.
You like
deep artistic, yeah.
That's right.
If something sparks joy, you keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's
that's a nice place to end.
Yeah. That's that's my parting words. That's the last thing I'm going to say. If something sparks joy, keep it. So yeah,
you can say, family here. It's all about connection and love, and that's what this group's all about. Is that what Vin would say?
I was about to say, like, I just met all of you. Where are we going with this?
But when you really think about it, we're all the same person. Really.
What did I get into?
Oh, did you not get the drugs before we started?
Oh, so now we're held with all of this.
I forgot about the drugs. I'm so sorry.
You didn't mail them, Judah.
I fucked up.
Just don't make the same as that guy did. They're oral. You take them orally.
Oh,
I'm an idiot. Ladies and gentlemen, MVs, that's the end of our show. Thank you, everyone who showed up. Thank you for your time, especially you, Comicstorian. Appreciate you coming there at the end.
I am sorry I was late. Like I said, the first time in 4 weeks they decided to run late. I was like, oh, this is convenient.
Do you want to do Bloodshot in a couple weeks?
Yeah, I'm down. I have a couple of opinions on that.
we're starting with volume 1 of the Swierczynski run. So, yeah, that's next.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that's it. We are out of here.